Greetings, M Squared here today, and we are going to review for our test on Learning Target 3 and 4 in Topic 1, which means we're going to solve linear equations with variables on one side or variables on both sides. So, I am going to go over these questions. What I would love for you to do is to write the question down, press pause, and then work it out, and then see if you got it right. That's how it works the best. So, this is just like your review that you had in class, just a little bit different problems. So let's take number 1. Remember, we have steps, right? We check for fractions, we check for parentheses, and then we get like terms together, and that's on each side. And then we get the x's on one side, and we get the numbers on one side, constants. And I'll put that. And then we divide by the coefficient. Those are our steps. Now, I don't always follow those steps. Sometimes I do it a little bit different, but that's a great list to have in your mind. Fractions, parentheses, like terms on each side, x's on one side, numbers on the other side, coefficient, divide by the coefficient. So that's kind of what I'm going to do on this one. So I look at this one, and I notice that there are no fractions or no parentheses, so now I go to like terms. I notice that these are like terms. Get my highlighter out. Like terms right there. So negative 5 equals negative 7x plus 7x is 0. Now I think I told you before that if you the only time you get a no solution is when you have x on both sides. But in a weird case like this, we got a no solution and there weren't variables on both sides. We get a no solution because that's not possible. You can't get negative 5 equals 0. That means there's no value of x that makes this true. Remember, our goal is to find out what x equals to make that true. In this case, well, I can't say x equals x. I was going to say no. Wade's going to say no solution. There are no x values. That's very bad writing. Solution. I'm trying to remember how to spell no solution because the x is canceled out and I got a false statement. False. Okay, next one. Like I said, pause, try to figure it out, and then come back and see if you got it right. No fractions, no parentheses, going for the like terms. So I notice that there's like terms right here. There's my like terms. So I'm going to combine those first. So I get negative 10 plus 3x equals 4x minus 6. So I combine my like terms on the left side. There's nothing to combine on the right side. Now I'm going to, next step, get all the x's to one side. I always look and see which x is bigger. This one's bigger, so I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. Okay, now I get negative 10x, negative 10, x is canceled out, equals x minus 6. I've got all the x's on the right side, so my next job is to get all the numbers on the left side. So I'm going to add 6 because that said minus 6. In order to get rid of the minus 6, I need to add 6. And when I do that, that cancels out. And then that pen stopped working. So I'm going to get negative 4 equals x. And the x didn't have a coefficient, so I do not need to worry about that, right? It is all nice and pretty for us. All right. We're going down to number 3. Again, pause and see if you can get it right. This has fractions. And what we decided to do with fractions is to multiply everything by the common denominator. Now, you don't have to do that first. You could subtract 2x and get 5 so that you don't have to multiply all those things by 21. But we're going to do it the way that I've been teaching you in class. So we're going to take the common denominator. Our denominators are 21 and 7. Because 7 goes into 21, my common denominator is 21. So I'm going to multiply this by 21, this by 21, 21, 21, 21. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. So I've got to multiply all 5 things by 21. This step gets rid of my fractions so that I don't have to worry about them. And if you like fractions, you could have combined 6 sevenths and 1, which is 7 sevenths, and gotten 13 sevenths, and then added 311 21st to 13 sevenths. I mean, you can do that. It's not that you can't. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see, but I'm going to choose not to. So 21 times 7, that's 147x. These cancel out. That's the whole reason I did it. So I'm going to get minus 311. And then 2 times 21 is going to be 42x. That's going to cancel and get a 3, and 6 times 3 is 18. And then 21 times 1 is 21. All right. Next, no parentheses, combine like terms. There aren't any like terms on the left because that's an x and that's not, but there are some like terms over here. So when I do that, that's going to be a 39. All right. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add 311 to both sides. And at the same time, I'm going to take away 42x from both sides. You can do it at the same time if you want, or you can do separate steps. Just going to kind of skip a line there so that it's a little quicker. So I'm going to add these. That's 350. And that's 501, so 105x. I'm going to divide by 105. I can see that they're both divisible by 5. Right? If you want to use your calculator, you can. I'm going to grab my calculator just to make that a little easier. And I am going to see what I get when I reduce that. So it looks like 35 goes into there 10 times and 35 goes into there 3 times. So my answer is 10/3 x. Did you get 10/3? I'm hoping you did. Okay, next one. Pause if you want to so that you can see if you got the right answer. That would be the best way to review for the test. Combine like terms. That's my first step. That's a 9. So I get 9 equals 5r plus 9. Next step is to get all the numbers on that side because the r's are already on the right side. So we're going to get all the numbers on that side. And that's 0 and that's 0. So 0 equals 5r. Now, a lot of people would say, oh, I know what r is because there's only one thing times 5 that gets me 0, so r is 0. But if you don't recognize that, it's okay to keep going and divide both sides by the coefficient, which is 5, and then you get r equals 0 because 0 divided by 5 is 0. So hopefully you got 0 on that one. All right, let's try the next one. Again, pause if you can so that you can see if you got it right. I see parentheses. I'm going to multiply my 7 that's in front of the parentheses. I'm going to distribute that. So I'm going to multiply 7 times negative 6. That's negative 42. 7 times v is 7v. Whoops, that's supposed to be a plus. And now I need to get all my v's on one side and all my numbers on the other side. So I'm going to subtract 3v. I'll do 2 steps this time. Whoops. 42 plus 4v equals negative 34. And then I'm going to add 42 to both sides. So I get 4v equals, I have 6, 7, 8. Positive 8. So I'm going to divide by 4 to get rid of my coefficient so that the v is all along. Remember that alone. Our goal is to get v alone so that we know what v equals to make it true. And so v is equal to 2. All right, next one. We, again, are going to see that there's a parenthesis, so we know we're going to distribute first. So negative 8 plus 6 times x is 6x. 6 times 8 is 48 equals 88. The next step is to notice the like terms, right? I see my like terms, the 48 and the negative 8, and I'm going to combine those, and I'm going to get 40. So 6x plus 40 equals 88. Next step, since the x's are all on the left, I'm going to move my numbers or constants to the right. 6x equals 48. Looks like 48. I'm going to divide both sides by 6, and x equals 8. All right, next page. Hope you are doing great. hope you're getting them all, and if you're not, I'm hoping you're finding your mistakes and understanding what you're doing so that you can knock the test out of the park. Okay, I see 2 sets of parentheses here. So I'm going to need to get rid of both of those. A minus sign outside of parentheses means, hey, it's the opposite of whatever that is. So I know that the opposite is 3n. The opposite of negative 6 is positive 6. The other way you can think of it is like there's a negative 1 right there that you're distributing. You'll get the same simplification there. Now I'm going to distribute that 5. 5 times 1 is 5. And 5 times a negative 2 is negative 10n. Now I'm going to combine my like terms. I got some like terms there. I also have some like terms right here. These guys are like. So negative 3n and negative 10n gets me negative 13n. 5 plus 6 gets me 11. And then I have a negative 15. If I subtract 11, because the n's are already on the left, so I need to get all my numbers on the right side. So if I subtract 11 from both sides, I get negative 26. And if I divide, because my coefficient needs to be, I need to get rid of this negative 13, which is the coefficient, to get n alone, which remember is my goal. And I get n equals 2 because negative divided by negative is a positive, and 13 goes into 26 2 times. Number 8. We're over halfway there. Number 8. I don't have any parentheses or fractions or like terms, so I just need to get the x's on one side and the numbers on the other side. So I'm going to subtract x from both sides. I get 3x on this side equals negative 5, and then bring the negative 2 down. Now I need to get all the numbers on the other side. So I'm going to add 2 to both sides, and I get 3x equals negative 3. And if I divide both sides by the coefficient, I get x equals negative 1, because negative 3 divided by 3 is negative 1. All right, getting a little harder now, I think. We'll see, they're looking a little more challenging. I'm going to distribute. 7p plus 21 equals 7p plus 29. Hold on, did we say 7p? Both sides? The variables are exactly the same? Remember what happens there. You subtract 7p from both sides, and you get no p's left. And then you see, does 21 equal 29? Absolutely not. So I know that's a no solution. Remember, you don't have to do this. If you recognize right here that the 7p's are the same on both sides, you can stop there because 21 doesn't equal 29. You don't have to do this extra work if you notice it. So keep that in mind. All right, there's different ways to do these decimal problems. You can just straight up use the decimals, but what I like to do is multiply everything by 100. But sometimes I simplify first. Like I would add those together first because that's a really easy addition for me. 14.78 plus 1. If I have $14.78 and someone gives me $1, guess how much I have? I have $15.78. So I combine those, but I still have this n here. Oh, I still have this minus 64 too. 6.4, sorry, didn't see that. Now it's a little messy. You'll have to excuse my messiness. All right, so I didn't combine that one, but I could, right? If I wanted to, I could say minus 6.4, because that's an easy one to do. I just put a 0 placeholder. So let's combine that all so it's a little bit easier for us. So 8 minus 0 is 8, 7 minus 4 is 3, and 6 taken away from 15 is 9, and it's positive. So now let me try to write it neater than I did last time. Okay, so here we go. So like I said, you can continue to do this with the decimals, but I'm going to show you one of the things I do. Sometimes I just multiply everything by 100 or 10, depending on what the decimals are. So this is 1 9/10, if I say it in math language. This is 9 3/38. So remember, 9 3/38, that's how you would write it as a fraction. Or you could also write it as 938 hundredths. The reason I multiply by 100 is because I have hundreds. If this was just 0.3, then I just multiply everything by 10. So I'm going to take and multiply this by 100, because what happens when you multiply by 100, you actually get rid of the decimals. Like I said, you don't have to do this, but it's just one way to do it. So when I multiply 938 by 100, I actually get, I said 938, 9 and 38 hundredths. The hundredths cancels out, and I get 938. When I multiply 1.9 by 100, remember, our system is base 10, so 100 moves the decimal place over 2 times, because every time you move the decimal place over 1, you're multiplying by 10, right? If you have 3 and you multiply it by 10, you get 30. If you had 3 and you multiplied it by 100, you get 300. So the decimal place is going over. That's how that works. So that'd be 190n equals 100n plus 300. You don't have to do it this way, like I said. You can just go back to the decimals and do it that way. But I'm going to add 190n to both sides. So now I have 938 equals 290n plus 300. And now I'm going to subtract 300, because I got all the n's on the right side. I'm going to get all the numbers on this side. So 638. All right, and now I'm going to divide. And of course, I'm going to use my calculator. I wouldn't make you do that by hand. It's okay to use your calculator. Although you can do it by hand if you want the challenge. I don't particularly want the challenge while I'm doing the video. So n equals 2.2. That is our answer. Whoops, there it is. All right, here we go. 2 more. I see fractions. I know that the common denominator is a number that all of those go into. And since this is the biggest one, I know that I'm going to check that one first. Does 6 go into 72? And does 4 go into 72? Well, 72 is 8 times 9, so that tells me 4 goes into 8, 6 goes into, it has a 2 and a 6. Anyway, 6 does go into 72. 6. So I know that 72 is my common denominator. So I'm going to multiply everything, every term, by 72. There we go. So 6 goes into 72, goes in once with 1 left over, so 12 times 5x, right? Because these cancel and get a 12, so then it's 5 times 12x, 5x times 12. 4 goes into 72 once with 3 left over. Is that 18? 18. Wait. 4 goes into 72. Let me just make sure. Yes, I'm right. I don't want to get it wrong. So that goes in 18 times, so I have 3 times 18. And I'll do that in a minute. I just want to show you what I'm doing. So 4 goes into 72 18 times, so I have negative 1 times 18, so negative 18. And then 72 cancels. Sorry, there was an X here. And then plus 67. So 12 times 5 is 60. 3 times 18. What is that? I don't know. 54. 54. X equals. All right. So we have our equation here. We notice, gotta watch that negative, right? Got x's on both sides, numbers on both sides. So I'm going to move all my x's over here. And I'm going to move all my numbers over here. Right, so 50, 42, x equals, what's that? So 13? 13. And so now I'm going to divide by 42. Now, obviously, 13 isn't divisible by 42 in the respect that you're going to get a nice little integer. But 13 goes into 42. Let's see, how many times does 13 go into 42? No, I must have made a mistake. Oh, good. I was hoping I would make a mistake because we've got to find it. Remember, I told you one of the things I'm going to test you on is finding your mistakes. So this isn't any fun, but we're going to go. Let's see. 68, that's 50, 60. Maybe you found my mistake, and now you get to watch me try to find my mistake. So let's go over here. 72, I'm going to go right back at the top. 72 times 5 divided by 6. Let's see. That is 60. Okay, we got that right. 18 times 3. Was that 54? Yes, we got 54. There's my x, there's my plus sign. Okay, right here. The 4 goes into there 18 times. We got a negative 18. That is correct. That canceled, and I got a 67. So where did we make the mistake? 67 minus 14. 67 minus 54 is 13. That is correct. 18. Oh, see, there's my mistake. You probably saw that before me. That's a plus sign. Oh boy. So I knew I made a mistake because it doesn't go in and they aren't going to be super mean to me. I mean, it shouldn't. This is like a repeating decimal. That's how I knew. I knew that they weren't going to do that to me, give me some crazy thing. Although I shouldn't say, yeah. Anyway, you might not know that, but I knew that there was a mistake. So I'm going to go like this. And this time, we're not going to subtract. We're going to add. So that's 78. So we're going to divide by 78. There we go. So what is 13 78ths? Well, 13 goes into there 6 times, so that would be 1/6. All right. Even m squared makes mistakes. We all make mistakes. We got to embrace them and be intrigued by them. That was just a silly mistake, wasn't it? Okay, here we go. Last problem. So we're going to get rid of these parentheses and those parentheses. So I have 2 minus. Remember, when I have the minus sign, it's just the opposite of whatever you see in there. So I switch both signs, negative, positive. Same thing over here. So I'm going to have a negative 1 and a positive 4b. Ooh, did anybody see this 4b's? That means it's either a no solution or a infinite solutions. 2 minus 3 is negative 1, and that's a negative 1. So now I know that this is all real numbers. This one has an infinite number of solutions because the variables and the constants were exactly the same. It's called an identity. All right. I hope that helped you review a little bit for your test. Good luck with that. M squared, signing out.